Okay, hey, we're excited about today. Today is the holiday season for college basketball coaches. It's a fun time of year. This next week, coming weeks, 4 or 5 weeks period. It's a grind, but it's a lot of fun for coaches and players. And we're super excited about Team 120. And as I told my staff. And we talked about as a staff, I think we have, as many challenges as we've had as a coaching staff. And when you look at our early schedule in particular, and that's well documented, the contributions of our guys that have graduated, we've got some challenges ahead of us, but we're super excited about digging in with this group and spending some time with some of our new guys. Obviously, we've got a lot of new faces and some returning guys as well. So can't wait to get rolling here tomorrow.
Did you turn the page pretty quickly, or are you still seeing the production in your rearview mirror, and how do we get it here?
In terms of last season, this season, yeah, I said we had former players, a former player banquet a couple weeks ago, and I said then, this is the last time I'm talking about last year's team, and it was just a little bit of reflection. It's time to move forward. Last year's team was last year's team. We're really proud of what that group accomplished, but now is the time for this group to form its own identity, and that's going to require some contributions from some guys that, honestly, our fan base may not be quite as familiar with, and that's okay. So we're anxious for that.
Is it easier to move forward when you have so many new guys and kind of get them excited for a new year rather than just dwelling on what happened last year?
Well, I think the biggest question for one of the questions for this group is going to be kind of who is going to answer the bell when it gets late or when it gets into crunch time situation. We had two all-conference guys who made so many plays for us late in the year last year. So because it's those, because you have unknowns, that's what, if we had a team that was returning, 4 starters, well, then you don't have as many unknowns. But we do, and I think the exciting thing is you have a lot of new guys. It's also anxious when you have a lot of new guys. So, time will tell. How we approach all that.
Chris, one of those new guys, Keyshawn, one thing I heard from players over there was that you had one adverse situation maybe in Spain.
Yeah.
That he stood up in the huddle or made some plays or whatever to establish that veteran leadership you said you wanted. How has that progressed already since he got here?
With him in particular?
Keyshawn in particular, yeah.
I think that's going to be a process for him. I think it's something we want out of Keyshawn. But he's also got to earn the trust and the respect of a brand new group of guys. That's not something, we all know this, that's not something that you're given because he's suddenly a fifth-year guy. I think he's got to earn that, and he's got to continue to earn that on the day-in, day-out basis. I don't, we'll name captains at some point, but I really think leadership is going to be a collective thing with this group. I don't know that there's, maybe outside of CJ, that there's 2 or 3 guys that you would say clearly that's who needs to lead this group. I do think between CJ and Andre and Keyshawn, we have some potential there, and Joey. But we expect that from Keyshawn, but it's also something he's got to earn here in the coming weeks.
From that big picture perspective, then, what did you get out of that trip? I mean, it's a little bit of that head start into the season that you find out about your guys.
Yeah. What we got is a lot of quality time together, and maybe learned a little bit about our team through the games, but the games were so lopsided. The competition, particularly the first 2 games, it just didn't provide a whole lot of honest feedback. Now the third game, there was good competition. They had some older guys that were pros. We were popped pretty good, but it's hard to understand. That they weren't what we're facing in Big Ten play. That's for sure. None of those 3 teams were, and it wasn't close. So I don't know what you can take from that, but we did have incredible time together. I think a new group with a bunch of new guys, having them spend time in hotels and traveling is a good thing. Will it pay dividends in terms of wins and losses? That's up for debate.
Chris, it seems like last year you were able to get the Thad's guys to buy in really quickly, and that showed.
Sure.
How easy or hard is it when you have so many new guys to come in to buy in, when you have those Thad's guys, but they seem to buy in? I guess just how do you continue the culture with such a new roster?
Well, what was so critical last year was we had two guys in particular in Jay Sean and Kada that they bought in completely, and they were our best players. So everybody really had to follow, and we went through some tough times. The three of us, Jay Sean and Kada, but I think early in the season, once the rest of the players saw them really embracing us as a coaching staff, everybody followed. So that in some ways made it easy. I think that we're not at that point yet where I think we've got a group that's anxious to learn. They're excited about being a part of what we're doing. But I don't know if you really know the total buy-in of your team until you face some adversity in the midst of the season, and until you face it a couple times. I don't really think you can't really make those determinations until then.
Chris, are you looking at any of the preseason projections? I know we joked with you at the
Yeah.
tournament last year about the manila folder you had.
Yeah.
Are you paying attention to that again at this point? Or?
You know, I think in some ways, and you guys know this, your preseason stuff, your projections, in some ways it's a reflection of the prior season. So we're probably going to get some credit for last year's team that many of these guys were part of. But I think it's an educated guess at best. So we're aware of it, and it's really been all over the map, hasn't it? I think from 6th to 12th, and some of the things that I've seen, and more towards kind of 8, 9. And I think our league is one that it's hard to guess right now. We have a lot of teams that are returning a lot of stuff. A lot of. I mean, you look at the bottom of the Big Ten that finished last year. They are returning a lot of guys. Some off injuries. We have some really gifted teams there. And then we have some teams that have really recruited well and have some all-conference players returning. So it's something we've looked at a little bit, but not as much. I'm sure at some point Coach Peden will have his wall up there, and but we're not there yet. And we understand that I do. When I look at those things, I get it. I understand that we have questions about our group. We have to answer as a coaching staff and as players. We have to answer them. It's understandable when you lost what we lost to have some questions about our group.
What's the first order of business you think it has to be? Or is it always the same we go with?
Yeah.
What is the approach?
First order of practice, you're saying? Make sure everybody gets to class on Thursday and finishes that and arrives and is healthy. We're a little bit, surprisingly, a little bit nicked up right now with a couple guys. We have a couple guys that are Micah has a thumb injury that's going to limit him until for a week or so. Keyshawn has a hamstring strain that's going to limit him for a day or two. And then there's another player, C.J. Walker, who we're waiting on some testing on. So health is most important. But, you know, really we're gonna do what we've done, and we'll look a little bit different offensively and defensively, not dramatically, but we'll look a little bit different because our personnel is different. But we're going to stay pretty consistent. There'll be long days for our guys. They'll be tired. It's not going to be like it was in the summer where we were in and out of here in an hour. It's going to be a lot of long days. We're going to have to pay the price to play well early in the year, and that requires a lot of work between now and November.
Chris, how difficult is the balance of you're in year 2 in a new program, you're still reshaping and building things, yet you set a pretty high expectation in year 1. Granted, you have some talented players that aren't here anymore, but it just seems like it would be tough to sort of balance where you want to go, sort of where you've been on it.
Yeah, I think. It's interesting. I think you every year you have high expectations for how your team is going to perform relative to its potential, and that's really kind of where we're at. We have a high expectations for how our team is going to perform relative to our potential as a group. Now, if you're asking me, hey, what's your potential as a group, I would say we got a lot to learn between now and the start of the year. But there is a certain level of expectation, a standard in which we want to practice, a standard in which we want to compete, a certain standard in which we want to be able to handle adverse situations in the midst of games. And it's our expectation in these coming weeks to get our guys to understand that, hey, we're gonna play to our level of expectation. It didn't cross my mind one time about, because I got asked that a lot about, hey, maybe just, come in and if you have a mediocre year, that's okay. As I've said, if we had a good year, that was great. It was great for our older guys. And we're going to try to compete to our standard as much as we can every year, and we'll see what that looks like once we get our group together.
Your first years of all your stops have been drastically different, obviously.
Yeah.
How does this year two, I guess, stack up in terms of where you think you are in the building process compared to
Clearly our most challenging. This is clearly our most challenging. I said that to our coaching staff. I think this is our most challenging year since we've been together, just because we have, I think it's a combination of a couple things. Our schedule, which is, our schedule is the hardest schedule that we put together. And so obviously that was by design. We put it together, so there's no one to blame but me, really. You can blame me, okay? I deserve all the blame on that one. So we'll see if it was the right move or not, but I think you combine that with just the number of new faces that we're implementing with some of the older guys that we have returning. I think we have some challenges as a staff and a program, but that's also exciting, Bill, in the sense that we get to see how quickly we can forge a new identity with the new group.
Coach, obviously, we all know what kind of talent you lost last year with Caden and Jay Sean and all those guys. And obviously that's something you guys have to build. But just what stuff that you want to work on as a team to maybe get better as a cohesive unit instead of just individual players?
Well, I think last year, if you look at our numbers, we led the Big Ten in defensive efficiency, and we were top 15 in the country in defensive efficiency for the bulk of the year. I think it's going to begin there. We have to be a team that is really, really tough and sound on the defensive end. And given we lost some length and some size and some versatility, I think that's the biggest thing I'm looking at. Are we going to be as defensive minded as we were last year?
And then kind of going off of that, what enabled you guys to be so good on defense last year? I mean, that's an area where Ohio State was really struggling in recent years, leading up to you guys coming in here. Just what did you guys implement that allowed you guys to be so efficient on defense?
Well, I think it goes back to what was said earlier. I think the buy-in of our kids really. Certainly, there are scheming that you can do defensively, but a lot of it is we had good length and good versatility, particularly with Kata and Jay Sean and Andrew Dockich. As surprising as that was for all of us, myself included, had some really good moments defensively. I mean, he was really, really important for us late defensively, and so I think when you look at that. It was also a byproduct of their buy-in as a group. They really did want to. They believed that we were going to win games on that end, and we'll see if this group believes the same. And I think that's the largest looming question for us as a coaching staff.
It seems like Musa last year, that's what got him on the floor, was his defense and his strength and athleticism. It seems like Luther is a guy who is almost defense first, which seems rare for a freshman. If you get to the point where those two are on the floor together, how, I guess, athletic and how perimeters sound can you guys be on the defensive end and the perimeter with those two guys?
Well, I think they both have the ability to be good defenders. I think they both can. C.J. Jackson is another good perimeter defender. I think they both can be good defenders, but Luther's, I want to caution, he's a freshman who's kind of learning, he's really good on the ball. He's got to get better off the ball. But he wants to be a good defender. He's got a great approach and a great attitude, and I think offensively, he's maybe a little bit better than what we give him credit for as well. But having him, and I think Musa had some really good moments for us defensively last year. He's got to continue to grow in that area as well as his overall offensive game, but it gives you some versatility with those two guys. Andre Wesson, I would say right now, Andre Wesson and C.J. Jackson are our two most sound, solid perimeter defenders. They have to continue to grow in that area, but those two guys right now are kind of a standard. We have some of our young guys, Luther and Musa, can grow and look at and aspire to be.
How much do you see your offense, obviously playing, last year he was playing through Cato a lot, and it seems like that role is Caleb's now. Just how is he kind of responding to that, and how have you seen him performing so far?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways it's going to be, we all in here know, in late games, where we went a lot last year. Cato had the ability to make challenge shots and create scoring opportunities when he was closely guarded. And I think that's going to fall on Caleb for sure some this year, but I think also that's going to be a collective thing for us. I think the open man may be the most important option late in games this year for us. It's certainly going to, Caleb's the offense is he's going to be a guy that's going to be more in terms of volume, going to get more volume opportunities. But I think the open man is going to be perhaps the most critical element when it comes to late game situations. Yeah.
Based on that and what you've seen from the guys, what are you most excited about as you head into start practicing?
I think just kind of getting to learn about what we can do on the floor, which sometimes you don't fully know that until you play a schedule. Now we'll know that pretty early, given who we play and some the challenges we have early. But I think just getting to know this group, I think we're anxious to see how the personalities mesh. They really do like each other, and as of now, they like the coaches. That'll change in a couple weeks, but they do like each other, and we've enjoyed coaching them. But I think just kind of seeing what may be the potential of this group.
Chris, every time we talked to you this summer, it seemed like you were going 100 miles an hour on the recruiting trail. Was there ever, you got a lot of good news too, but was there ever a point that it settled down for you? Did you get any chance to catch your breath at all?
This off season has been good just because we did as a family get a chance to settle in a little bit. But I think the pressure was, we certainly felt the pressure as a staff to have a really good put together, a good recruiting class, another really good recruiting class. So you're never fully at rest when you certainly feel that pressure. But it's been good. It's been good to be around the city and spend more time here. And we've gotten to know a few more people and certainly feel at a little bit different place than what we did last summer. But it was an incredibly busy off season. I said this all along. My wife says every time in the fall, I've never seen you work this hard. She's literally said for the last 2 years, it's just what happens. It's the nature of the beast. And I'm super excited about kind of where our recruiting is headed, and hopefully we can continue to do that well.
Chris, Micah said that he worked all summer with that goal of trying to be able to play some at the floor and stay on the floor at the 5 when you go small.
Sure.
Thinks he's there. It's up to the coaches, obviously. From what you've seen, do you think he's going to be able to handle that this year?
Are you talking about the 4 or playing?
Both.
Yeah, I think.
His agility.
Yeah, I don't know that. Listen, it's time will tell on that, and are there times where we could potentially play that lineup? Sure, but I'm not sure that in today's game, that's going to be a way we're going to be able to play for extended periods effectively. I do think there perhaps are some teams where you can go that route, but there are too many teams that are playing spread offensive systems that really require tremendous kind of foot speed and agility and great our ball screen defense in general needs to get better. But I do think there's some lineups where we'll take a look at that.
And what are you looking at? Caleb said he's never been had less body fat than he has now. His weight is still up. His goal is to play 30 minutes a game. How much would you like?
Did you ask the other guys what their goal in terms of minutes per game were? Because I would love to know that, and we'll total it up, and then we'll see how realistic that is. All right, we'll share it with them.
I mean, with his talent, and you just said he might be your go-to guy. So how often would you like to see him on the floor?
You know, I think we'd love to see him play. He's going to definitely play more than I think he played around 21 minutes last year. That's definitely going to get increased as long as he can do what we're expecting him to do. But he's worked hard to put himself in position to be more conditioned, and I think just having a year under his belt will help that. But I wouldn't want to put like necessarily a number on it. But I will tell you that his minutes will significantly increase, and I think that you know, as teams will try to attack him as they did last year in terms of ball screen situations, and they'll try to be really physical with him. So Caleb's done a good job trying to bring some variety to his game, which I think is important. As I've mentioned, he's gonna shoot more threes and play a little bit more out on the floor because I think that's important for our team and important for him too. But he's in good shape right now, and I think he can take another level in terms of his conditioning. I really do. I just got a report this afternoon from our strength coach that he had dropped 2% body fat. So he's made good strides, and we got to keep moving in that direction. We're not quite there yet.
Chris, does he need to be a dominant kind of all Big Ten caliber player for you guys to have success this year?
I think both he and his brother will need to have good years for us to have a good year. Whatever that looks like. Because I think both guys are going to be on the floor. Both guys, Andre, for one, gives us a lot of versatility. He was critical in a lot of games last year, but he was critical in playing a specific role. He's going to need to increase his scoring and his production. But I really would look at it. Certainly Caleb will need to take the next step, whatever that looks like. But I would put his brother along with that. They're both going to need to have good years for us.
How varied do you think you might be as far as like setting lineups this year? It seems like you're continuing to add guys that can play 2 or 3 different roles.
Yeah.
How different could this team look from game to game or possession to possession?
I wouldn't anticipate that we would have the same starting lineup for 32 games by any stretch. Maybe not even 20 games. And I think our guys are just going to have to understand that that's, you know, guys get caught up in the starting lineups, and that's. I just don't know that we have a team where you could say right now this is the 4 starters that are definitely going to. So I do think there's going to be potentially 7, 8 guys, 9 guys, maybe as many 9 guys that could rotate in and out of a starting lineup, and you know, that's good for us. I think having flexibility in our lineup is good. You know, last year we were able to finish the game. We weren't necessarily small, but it was a versatile lineup for us late in a lot of games. I don't know that we necessarily have that this year. It helped us a lot late in games, but that's where guys like Caleb and Micah and Jay are going to have to be good at finishing games out in those positions.
When you think back to last year, like you said, you didn't necessarily know in some cases what some of you guys were going to give you, but you kind of knew, like, okay, maybe there was a little bit of a pecking order in a way. Tata had been through things, JT had been through things. It seems like maybe it might be a little more nuanced to it this year. Do you is there less separation between players on the roster this year compared to last year?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
how does that challenge you as a coach, and how do you have to sort of massage egos and
Yeah.
all the things that would come with that, where it's not clear cut, this guy's clearly better than you. There's a
What?
lot of-
Yeah, no, that's a good. I said earlier, I don't know if you heard it. I think that this is our most challenging year as a coaching staff because of our early schedule and because of what you're talking about there. There is not necessarily there. I think there's a clear separation in terms of some of our guys that have some experience and were part of last year's team and that played important roles on last year's team. But beyond that, it's pretty wide open. So we have to figure out quickly what our strengths are as a team. How we feel like guys are playing and what gives our team the best chance of winning and what group that looks like. There are a lot of questions. And listen, that's what happens when you have, a team that has some turnover like we had, so or graduation like we had. So we're anxious to figure that out. We really are.
Who were the five that you went with down the stretch in Spain in that third game?
Oh,
When you
you're
rallied?
you're asking probing questions right now. You were
Well,
trying to
there's no
figure
video.
out you're trying to figure out who my opening day starting lineup is going to be. It's. Let me see if I can remember this.
You could always lie.
Yeah, I realize that. Conveniently forget. We have a crack staff member in the back who may remember better than I do. He's hiding right now. Dan, do you remember who we finished with late in Game 3? I believe the lineup looked like
CJ and Key.
it was CJ, yes, Keyshawn. I believe it was Luther, Kyle, and no, excuse me. It was CJ, Key, Andre, Kyle, and Caleb, and then Luther was in that mix as well in a couple of those late possessions. But we're just talking about just late, couple minutes there.
Very good defensive lineup.
Yeah, that was a group that you'll learn you're alone. That's typically the direction I lean. Late in close games, I'm going to try to put our toughest team out there.
You said after you came back that you thought shooting could be a strength for this team. Was that something you saw in Spain, or is that you just think that from what the talent you think you've got?
I think we might just have a few more guys. That's what I meant, because we may not have a guy that was the volume of a Keita or maybe as accurate as Cam was.
Mm-hmm.
Both those guys were really accurate, and Keita was a high volume guy. What I do think is we could have a few more guys out on the floor that you would have to worry about behind the three, including Caleb, who was mentioned. We'd like for his numbers to increase. That's what I meant. It's a few more guys on the floor where you have to worry about them behind the line.
With that many, with hopefully that many shooters, last year at times you struggled with a guard who could get in the lane and kick.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, number one, is Key that kind of guard, and number two, has CJ improved that part of his game?
CJ's gotten better in that area. I think Keyshawn can do it, but he does it a little bit more in a crafty way. It's not like he's going to be super explosive in terms of doing that, but he's got a really good feel. Keyshawn has a really, really good feel for the game and makes the right play most times. And then I think Luther's another guy that will be what we call him paint touch guys.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Sean Tate was the ultimate paint touch guy. He lived in the paint. We'd like to have a few of those guys on the floor most times. And Luther's another guy that can do that. And Joyne can do it a little bit as well at times.
Saw a team announce a charity exhibition just the other day. Are you guys looking into anything like that this year?
We've talked about it just briefly. I think it's a petition you have to get through the NCAA. We've not, Adam, decided to do anything right now, but we've talked about it. I don't know that we'll add another one right now. We may just have a chance. We go on the road, as you guys know, 2 out of our first 3 games I've been to both environments, and they are incredible road environments. we're opening one arena and we have another one that's maybe the hardest place up there, top 3 or 4 places I've ever played in terms of the energy of the crowd. So maybe it is wise to go do something like that somewhere else, but we'll see.
Coach, kind of going off of that, with arenas and whatnot, I know that one of the things you guys have really emphasized, especially last year, is trying to get more fans packed into the Schottenstein
Sure.
Center. And I know you guys are doing, like the student passes and whatnot this year. But what else besides, obviously winning games, are you guys maybe doing to help increase attendance this season?
I think we're working with the school to do as much as we can to create an environment that's great in the shot. We have tried to, we have talked to various groups on campus that are involved, some game day operations, and met with various people, to give them our input and our ideas. But now's the time for us to really worry about the kind of product we're putting on the floor. So that'll be my focus here moving out. Maybe some of our other staff will continue to work on that. But you got to earn the right to have your fans come and watch you. I think we did that last year. I'm hoping this team will as well. We had some great crowds. We had some others that I would love to see even a more packed house. And again, we'll work towards making it a team that they enjoy watching.
Chris, you mentioned a lot of leaders with CJ kind of expanding that role and Keyshawn having
Yeah.
to kind of earn it. A lot of guys mentioned Joey, and obviously he's not going to play a whole lot, but in what ways can he be a leader in this program?
Well, he's got, first of all, guys like him. They respect him. They know he is all about Ohio State playing well and all about Ohio State winning. That's his only agenda. So when you have a older guy where that's his only agenda, and he's got the personality of Joey, and Joey's an unselfish kid. Joey Lane's a tremendous person, and I do think he'll have a level of influence. It's a little harder when you're not on the floor, but I do think he's going to be a guy that we right now poll the team on who the team leaders are. He's going to be one of the ones that gets. It's going to be him and CJ, and I think we'll kind of go from there. But I definitely think he's going to have a level of influence for sure.
Coach, Keyshawn said that he likes to be a vocal leader, but you've had to tell him, he's into it, got him into a new place. How often do you talk to him about that? One of those conversations, so he doesn't maybe come off too strong?
Yeah, I don't know that I've said to him ease into it. But I think he probably may be sensing that, when you come, just like Andrew last year, it just takes a little bit of time for him to earn kind of the respect of everybody, all of his teammates. I think that'll happen, and that'll come. But he's got to pay the price to earn that with his daily work, and he's done that up to this point for sure. But so much of that gets forged when you're in really challenging moments, and that's what we don't quite. I mean, we can sit here and name captains and put them out there, but that is our leadership's going to come in the challenging moments, and who all that's going to be, I'm not quite sure yet. That's what I'm anxious to see.
Chris, you say anxious, concerned, anxious, are they the same thing? Where is
Anxious. Yeah, I mean, excited, concerned. I don't know if concerned would be the right. I'm just. I don't know how you characterize it, but I think we have some guys that just needs to be pulled out of more than maybe what we've been able to pull it out in the past. So that's what we got in front of us.
Because you said that the versatile lineup, the smaller lineup, whatever you want to call it, might not be as much of a weapon for you as it was last year. Is that because you're expecting to be able to put more on Caleb, because you maybe just don't have the personnel to do it the way you did last year?
Well, that's because we lost a guy named Keita Bates-Diop. Really, that's what it is. Just because he was so different with his length, his wingspan, and then his. I tell guys all the time. I think we've shared this before. We've talked about this because coach. You'll recruit kids and they'll say, "Well, I want to play this position, and I want to play this position." I'll say, "Okay, well, what position's Draymond Green when he's out there bringing the ball up the floor and then guarding their biggest guy?" I mean, he's bringing the ball up the floor, so he must be their point guard, and yet he's guarding their biggest guy. He's just a basketball player. And I think that that's what we want to continue to try to add as much as possible on our roster. Having said that, we have a really good player in Caleb who can be a mismatch, and we intend to play him in late situations and Micah in late situations. We just have to get better at our versatility is not as going to be it is not as strong as it was last year. Okay, so we have to get better playing with more traditional five in those situations. Does that make sense? I think guys can grow to a certain degree in terms of their versatility. I think you'll see that with some of our guys this year. But, the whole ability to go out and Keita ran a 5:25 mile and, could guard, twos, and Jay Shante could guard 1, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. So that's the versatility that's hard to replace. I do think like Andre Wesson can guard a lot of positions. Kyle Young can guard several positions. So that's what made kind of the last year's team unique in that sense.
Chris, now that you know more about Thomas and just what's in the road curve, how much easier is recruiting now that you can use the city of Columbus, which you are now familiar with,
Yeah.
as part of your pitch?
I think it helps to have more familiarity with the school and the people, but that's really what we're, it certainly helps. Recruiting is always, I don't want to say it's ever easy, particularly if you're trying to recruit players that you feel like are really good players, which a lot of people want. I mean, it's nasty and it's competitive and it's. So I don't know that it's ever easy, but I do think having more familiarity with the school, the city, everything around it probably helps us communicate that better to recruits and their families. And we'll see if it pays off here.
Was there something about the city itself that surprised you, or was it pretty much
Yeah.
what you expected?
The potholes.
They've been unusually bad this year.
Yeah, I just was in Congress yesterday. I should have mentioned that as part of with a couple of the fine people I spoke with. But no, I think just the city in general. I hadn't been here enough to really know what to expect, but I love it. Our family loves it. The people are really kind. It's been a city that I've been blown away with how generous it is. How many really tremendous causes people get behind here in the city. I think the size of it surprised me. I didn't know it was 14th largest city in the country, and so I think all that has been a pleasant surprise. I knew it was great, but it's all been a pleasant surprise.
Why were you talking to Congressman yesterday?
So I was yesterday. It's just kind of what I do. You didn't know that? I do that once a week.
I saw you talk to the governor earlier this year, too. Meeting.
Yeah, no, so Coaches versus Cancer asked a few coaches to go out, and Coaches versus Cancer was working with the American Cancer Society, and they work in collaboration. And Coaches versus Cancer just has about 4 or 5 coaches that go out there and speak with their local politicians to try to encourage continued funding for research. And obviously, Ohio State does so many incredible things for the fight against cancer. So I was in some ways out there with Coaches versus Cancer, and in other ways just representing a university that has been at the forefront of that fight. So I was just out there for a day, and it was good. It was good being out there. Rode the Senate train, which was cool. So.
Several of your predecessors as coach used to give, through the years, used to give Cincinnati a home.
Yeah.
And because of that, despite the public wanting it, there's been rare meetings between the two schools. Why did you come in and immediately decide this was the thing to do?
I just felt like it was the right thing at this time. And um, for our program, honestly, that's the most simplest way I could say it. I just felt like it was the right thing at this time for our program. Um, Now I could feel completely different on when is that? On the night of the 7th. But I just felt like it was. I understand why in the past, perhaps it was a decision that coaches made to not do it, to not play the game. I can understand that as well. Um, but I think for us right now, given the quality of programs in the state, and in particular the quality of Cincinnati's program, to have a game that is relatively close, that would be considered a significant um, win was a positive, as well as um, there was so much. I mean, how many questions did I get in the first couple months about our schedule, in particular playing that game or a game like that? And then you guys can guess the other question I got. Are you ever going to play a game at?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. At St. John.
Why did you think it was the right thing? Just be trying to regenerate interest in it?
Yeah, I think that played a role in it, but I'm not putting a schedule together to generate interest, because I think if you do that, it's going to be misguided. Um, it has to align with what our program goals are, and program energy is part of it, but also putting a schedule together that gives you a chance to have an at-large berth is another. So when you add all those things up, it made sense.
Did you call Mick, or did Mick call you?
Mick and I never talked. Mick and I know each other. I like Mick a lot. I respect his work. Obviously, they were waiting for us to make this decision. I think it was probably Jason and our administrators that arranged that. I think our office maybe initially contacted them, and then I'm not quite sure when I realized we were going to be opening the renovated arena, but
Too late?
it was too late. Yeah, it was too late for that. So.
Does 20 Big Ten games make like a Crossroads Classic type of thing a little bit more challenging to try to think about?
We're looking at doing something like that. I don't know that it's going to happen. 20, yes, is the short answer. It does make it more difficult, because the other thing we would like to do is continue to play in like what we played in last year, which was the PK80 or the Battle for Atlantis in Bahamas. We'd love our fans to come out and be a part of that, or Maui. So now you're adding that, and you're adding the challenges that we have between the ACC and the Big Ten, and the Big East and the Big Ten. There's just not enough room. But it's not dead by any means. We're still looking at it. There's just going to be some years where it's going to be impossible to do.
Do you have to have is there a number of home games you have to have every year? Or you take one?
I've not been told a certain number, specific number. We did at Butler, but I've not been told a specific number.
How do you feel like you balance recruiting nationally versus staying in Northern Ohio?
I think the biggest thing for us is we know Ohio is the most important state for us, but the reality is it's our right up there is our breadbasket. That 5 to 7 hour radius that is our breadbasket. That's really what is extremely important for us to recruit, and to recruit well. It is this breadbasket of 5 to 7 hours where we can recruit in the Midwest, and certainly we want to recruit Ohio well. We really need to recruit Ohio and those two things together effectively, and that's and then occasionally you'll go outside of those areas to recruit. Obviously Luther's from New Jersey. Occasionally there'll certainly be some national guys that will continue to recruit, but we really want to be good in that area.
Is there anything that sticks out specifically about maybe Indiana? It seems like a lot of really good Ohio State players have come
from the state of Indiana?
It's in our breadbasket. There's nothing. It's a really deep and talented state, and it can be cyclical, just like Ohio can be cyclical in terms of some years it's better than others. It has a really good run of talented guys right now, but it's part of our breadbasket, so it's really important. Were you going to ask another question?
Has your reception to what you've been pitching, especially to the upper echelon for change at all, given your success last year?
No, I think what it did is and I spoke a little bit of this on the spring, is it kind of validated what you were trying to communicate. I think a couple things, our success, and then obviously when you have a young man that is Big Ten Player of the Year and then goes and is drafted, both those things help. They don't get you a recruit, but they just, they grab the attention of the families when they see the development of a player. But at the end of the day, they're not doing the work for you.
Is there a different feel around the program this year now that you've experienced some success and went to the tournament versus when you came in here last year?
I think other people would probably could assess that better than me. I do think there is a really good positive energy around our program right now, but perhaps you guys might have a better feel for that than I do, because I don't, I wouldn't say I'm as adept at maybe the people you just are fine players you just talk to at social media, so I couldn't necessarily gauge all that. I do think there's a good energy and a good positivity, and hopefully we can, when in terms of our play and recruiting, that we can hopefully continue to build off of. And it does maybe feel a little bit different. When I got here last year, there were, we had some tough conversations, so.
There's a feeling that players maybe make their biggest growth between the freshman and their sophomore year. How important would that be for you on this team if the guys who were your freshmen last year, it seems like there are roles there those guys could maybe step into that they need to be ready for?
Yeah, I said, when we added those three guys that it was going to be most important for us really this year and in the coming years as opposed to last year. And obviously Caleb played a major role on last year's team, and Kyle and Musa both had their moments. But, we're super excited about, Kyle's off-season development. Musa's been injured part of the summer, so I think that's limited him a little bit. But all three of those guys, if we're going to have a good year, just like I said with the Wessons, all three of those guys, I think, are going to have an impact for sure. And it's critical. And I mean, that was important to add those two along with Caleb because of the middle classes that we had.
What are you super excited about Kyle's development for?
He's added a little more versatility, and he has been more confident as a player, which has been good to see. And maybe that helps not being guarded by Kata and JT every day. But I think he's just grown and maybe made that. Time will tell. But I'm just excited about what our fan base, I think, is going to have a chance to see a guy who is a team guy, about the right stuff, tough, and I think he's going to need to have take that next step for our team to take the next step. He's important for us.
Can you talk about guys who have more of a three-point shooting skill set? Do you include Kyle in that?
Yeah, I would. I think he's certainly got that to his game. I think he needs to continue to improve in his accuracy, his efficiency when it comes to that. And we've tried to improve. He's taken big strides in terms of his ball handling and adding. In high school, obviously we watched him a lot in high school and AAU. He really was an athlete, rebounder. Could really rebound tough, but offensively, his game has to continue to grow, and that's where we've tried to get it. Part of that has been three-point efficiency. Part of it's been his ball handling.
Chris, you got guys like Micah and Joey. When you ask them about their goals, mention stuff beyond what goes on the court. As a coach, how exciting is that for you?
Well, they're great. I mean, they're great kids, and I think that's who they are as people. And those we have tremendous kids in our program who kind of see the bigger picture. And sometimes it takes a couple years to see the bigger picture, right? You're talking about a junior and a senior. So as a coach, as someone who would like to say I'm an educator, I think we as a coaching staff, when we hear those stories, it's exciting to us.
Couple quick ones. How physically prepared is JV to play in Big Ten?
I think his conditioning has to get better. I think he's really strong. Jay is really strong, but I think the speed of the game, all those things, I think are and his overall conditioning needs to improve. So if you said just physically, he's strong enough. His conditioning and his agility has to continue to improve. But he's not going to go out there and get knocked around. He's going to be the one doing some knocking around, and that's a good thing. But I think the biggest thing for him is going to be understanding how different this game is from where he just came from.
And at this point, I know you're only a day or two in, but at this point last year, did you have any idea that Caden was going to be Big Ten Player of the Year?
No.
I know once you got a couple games in, you did, but like at this point,
Oh,
do you have any,
yeah.
do you have any expectations when you?
We thought we had an all-conference player
You talked about
at this time. Yeah.
Sorry, you have talked about wanting to play 3 guards together at a time. Having seen what you've seen in Spain and the handful of practices you've had, you still feel pretty good about having an ability to do that?
I think so. The question will be how much it limits us defensively, if it does limit us defensively. But I would like to play. I think we'll see that. I'm always of the belief you're gonna end up eventually putting your best players out on the floor. So if that looks like it's going to be 3 guards, then we'll do that for sure. I could see us doing that for wide stretches this year.
You mentioned that the second year yard probably seems to be the toughest one going in as a coach. Do you feel like you have to manage expectations with your team at all in terms of making sure they understand that the success they had last year that it could be
Yeah.
this year?
Sure, absolutely. I think our guys. It's a good question. I think our guys, they understand who we lost to graduation. They're smart, they're bright. Yet at the same time, I think that what they have to understand is it's going to be much different, and that our margin for error, no question, is smaller. There's no question it is smaller, and that's fine. And that means that we have to find a way to coach better. We have to find a way to play better. And I do think, to your point, they need to understand that this group will experience some challenges, maybe more than what we experienced last year for sure. And we'll see, how we respond to that.
But how difficult is that? I mean, no matter what, you experience success and then you kind of take a dip, and that's going to be something that you might struggle with. So how do you kind of maybe, if you guys were to take a little bit of a dip at the beginning of the season, how do you keep morale up with guys?
Good question. We'll talk to them. We'll hope that all the stuff that we've done prior prepares us for a moment like that. When we go through a difficult stretch, that's when you're really relying on the character of your team and the character of your group. We all know, what those kind of times reveal. So, you expect it too, and you expect it in any season. But definitely a season where you have some new faces and you have a tough, challenging schedule. You got to expect it, and I'm anxious to see how we respond to it, but we'll see. Okay, thanks, guys.